How did a viral video stunt leave 3 of us permanently disabled? The challenge went viral in late August when some college kids in California filmed themselves parkour running across rooftops downtown at night. The video hit 15 million views in 3 days and spawned hundreds of copycat attempts across the country. My best friend Cole Brennan showed me the original video on a Thursday afternoon while we were hanging out at his house with our friends Dante Williams and Isaac Cho. The footage showed 4 guys jumping between buildings that were maybe 8 feet apart, vaulting over air conditioning units, and sliding down fire escapes while the city lights glittered below them. The comments were filled with people calling them legends and saying they wished they had the courage to try something that intense. Cole said we should do our own version in our city and film it for his channel, which had about 2,000 subscribers. He'd been trying to grow his following for months, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity to go viral. I was 17 and spent most of my time trying to figure out what would make me interesting enough that people would remember me after high school ended. I'd been a mediocre student and average athlete my entire life, and the thought of doing something that 15 million people might watch made my heart race with excitement and terror in equal measure. Dante was immediately on board because he'd done gymnastics until sophomore year and was convinced his skills would translate to parkour easily. Isaac was hesitant and said the video looked dangerous, but Cole kept pressing, saying we'd scout locations carefully and only attempt jumps we knew we could make safely. He said the key was making it look more dangerous than it actually was, using camera angles and editing to amplify the drama. That convinced Isaac, and we spent the rest of that afternoon watching parkour tutorial videos and planning our route. Cole's YouTube channel was called Urban Expedition, and he'd been posting videos of us exploring abandoned buildings and climbing water towers for the past year. Most videos got maybe 300 views and a handful of comments. He'd become obsessed with the idea of going viral and had started taking bigger risks to create more compelling content. Last month, we'd climbed onto the roof of our high school at midnight, and he'd filmed himself doing a handstand on the edge. The video got 1,500 views, which was his best performance yet, but nowhere near the numbers he wanted. He said the Skyline Sprint would be different because the challenge was already trending, and if we posted within the next week while it was still hot, we could ride the algorithm wave to massive exposure. He talked about sponsorships and monetization and maybe even getting picked up by larger channels. His enthusiasm was infectious, and by the time I left his house that evening, we'd agreed to scout locations on Saturday. We spent Saturday driving around downtown looking for suitable buildings. Cole had specific requirements based on the original video. We needed at least 4 buildings in a row with flat, accessible rooftops, gaps between them that were challenging but not impossible, and enough architectural features to make the footage visually interesting. We found a promising stretch near the warehouse district where old industrial buildings had been converted to lofts and offices. The rooftops were mostly flat with low walls around the edges, and the gaps between buildings ranged from 6 to 10 feet. Cole pulled out a measuring tape at one point and actually measured the distance between 2 buildings we'd accessed through an unlocked fire escape. He determined that 10 feet was the maximum we should attempt, and anything beyond that was genuinely dangerous rather than just dramatic. Isaac asked how we'd even get onto the rooftops to film, and Cole said he'd been researching that. Most buildings had roof access through internal stairwells, but those were locked and alarmed. Our best option was fire escapes, which were external and often had ladders that could be pulled down to reach the lowest platform. Once we were on one rooftop, we could move between buildings without coming back down. The plan was to start on the southernmost building, run north across 4 rooftops while Cole filmed, then descend via a fire escape on the far end. The total distance was maybe 200 feet, but the dramatic angles and editing would make it seem like we'd crossed the entire downtown. Cole said we should film late on a weeknight when there'd be fewer people around to call the police. He suggested Wednesday around midnight. We met at Cole's house Wednesday at 11 and drove downtown. When we arrived, what happened next changed everything. Full story is linked below or on my channel.